Are you out of your mind? How could you attack someone from the Doyle family? Nina and the others went pale as a sheet when they saw Duncan lying on the floor, unconscious. They never expected Dustin to be so bold. So what? Dustin replied, unconcerned. Chimpate. What an ignorant fool. Nina glanced at him disdainfully. The Doyle family is one of the fabulous five. You might end up as a corpse floating in the Zibby River by tomorrow. Really? I don't think so. Dustin shrugged. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're rich. The Doyle family is far stronger than you can imagine. Mike informed scornfully. Terry Doyle is also a protective man. If he hears that his family was attacked, he'll take this seriously. If I were you, I'd start apologizing to them and atoning for my sins. That way, you might still have a chance of survival. Dustin gave the other man a small smile in response. Well, you aren't me. I've said what I needed to say. Since you're being so foolish, good luck. Let's go. Mike sneered and got up to leave. He didn't want to get caught up in this mess with the Doyle family. Chimpate. It's no use talking to people like you. When the time comes, you Illinois learn just how powerful they are. Nina shot Dustin a glare before following Mike. Dude, word of advice. Leave Millsburg right now. Run as far as you can before it's too late, the group cautioned before leaving hurriedly, worried they might get roped in as well. What should we do now? You seem to have gotten yourself in trouble now. I shouldn't have encouraged you earlier. Abigail muttered worriedly. She has heard of the Doyle family before as well. They were people whom ordinary citizens like her could never cross. Calm down. It's no big deal. Dustin smiled. Yeah, right. Quit bragging. Abigail huffed. You'll find out soon. Dustin chuckled but didn't explain further. Thanks for that just now. Just then, Ruby walked over and nodded her head at Dustin. You're welcome. That chubster just happened to annoy me. Dustin waved her off before suddenly thinking of something. Oh, right. Remember to return my $10 million. What? Ruby was stunned. She didn't expect him to bring up money at that moment. Hey, how can you ask someone to pay back the money you've already gifted out? That's such a spineless move. Abigail gave him an odd look. I was only doing that to defend you guys. You don't expect me to still give my money away, do you? Dustin splayed out his hands. You're an interesting guy. Sure. I'll return your money to you. Let me get your contact first. Ruby smiled and exchanged numbers with Dustin before continuing. You can call me if the Doyle family tries anything funny. Huh. Dustin was surprised. From the way Ruby spoke, he could tell that there was more than what met the eye. It's late, Abigail. I'll be going home now. Talk to you soon. Ruby waved her hand and turned to leave. Hey, kid. Who's that friend of yours? She doesn't seem like an ordinary person. Dustin casually asked. I heard that she comes from a rich family, but I don't know what business they're in. Abigail shook her head. Forget it. Let's go. Your dad's going to get worried. Pushing the matter aside, Dustin and Abigail quickly left. The next morning, Dustin was reading medical literature when a silver Bentley pulled up at the entrance of the courtyard. Bad news, Dustin. Something happened to my dad. Ruth rushed into the building and yelled anxiously. Calm down. Your dad won't die yet. Dustin slowly lowered his book, looking unbothered. Huh? How did you know? Ruth was surprised. Didn't I tell you yesterday? Your father was poisoned, and he won't live past 3 days. This is only the second day, so he still has 1 day left. Dustin answered. Then, what should we do? Can you treat him? Ruth pressed. I can, but on one condition. What is it? I hope your family can agree to your sister's request and break off the engagement with the Grant family. Break off the engagement? Ruth frowned. Dustin, this isn't a matter to be taken lightly. My father won't agree to it. The marriage was one that both families were expecting. Should the engagement be broken off, the relationship between the two families would worsen, which could negatively impact the Harmon family. Don't tell me it's more important than your father's life. Dustin retorted. You don't know my dad. He's always prioritized the bigger picture. For the greater good of the family, he'd rather sacrifice himself. Ruth told him gravely. He's that stubborn. Dustin was surprised. Why else would my sister be forced to do something against her will? I would love for you to be my brother-in-law, but my dad will never allow her to break off the engagement. Ruth sighed. What a stubborn old man. Dustin frowned. At first, he thought he'd be able to use this incident to change the other man's mind, but it seemed like that plan was bound to fail. Suddenly, Ruth said, if you want to stop them from getting married, I have an idea. What is it? Dustin asked. It'll be hard to get through my dad, but you can always try someone else. For example, the Grant family. Ruth lowered her voice. The Harmons' annual family gathering is happening tomorrow. I'm sure Tyler will send some gifts tomorrow. You should use that opportunity to kick up a fuss. You might be able to mess the engagement up that way. Are you sure it'll work? Dustin thought about it. That doesn't matter. You still have to try. I'm sure you'll be fine. Ruth puffed out her chest. Dustin stared at her tiredly without replying. She must spend too much time watching soap operas. I don't mind saving your father, Roth, but I need to meet your sister first. Dustin decided to compromise. He was more worried that he might take things too far, so he wanted to ask for Natasha's opinion beforehand. No problem. I'll get it down right now. Ruth took out her phone and made a call. After a moment, she answered. My mom agreed. As long as you can treat my father, she'll let you meet my sister. Deal. Dustin sprung up and got into the Bentley to accompany Ruth back to the Harmon estate. He has been feeling anxious for the past few days. Now, they could finally meet again.